So it looks like Nebraska is again going to start thinking about whether or not teachers should be able to be armed in schools as a way to deter or stop active shooters or things like that. And every time this topic comes up, there's a group of people who don't care about your rights, and their ability to care about students' safety is vastly overtaken by their hatred of an inanimate object. And those people, every single time this comes up, starts talking about how teachers aren't trained enough and they're not good enough and they'll shoot kids and all of this sorts of stuff. And somewhere in there, they bring up that police officers are so much more trained. They have hundreds of hours of training and so on. And that's true. But nonetheless, they're still completely wrong and they're lying to you. In this state, far as I can tell, in Nebraska, police officers receive 626 hours of training at the academy. Of those 626, 80 are over firearms. And of those 80 hours, that's handgun, patrol rifle, and shotgun. So only a section of those 80 hours is on handguns. And again, the people they're teaching, they're assuming those people have no information or prior practice or experience with firearms. So they're training them from nothing. And those hours also include the time it takes to run them through the qualification at the end. So yes, police officers have hundreds of hours of training, but the portion of that that's handgun is comparatively very, very small. So at the end of their training, what they do is they shoot the law enforcement firearms qualification course that they have to pass to be certified to carry a firearm in Nebraska as a law enforcement officer. And they have to continue to do this year after year. So I thought I'd set it up and shoot it. I've done this in the past, but it's been a while. So if they're saying other people need to have this standard, because this is the standard that police officers have to meet every year, let's see how difficult it is and whether or not some random person can also pass this sort of thing. Now, police officers would be doing this from a retention holster, outside the waistband, non-concealed, but retention. In my case, as someone who would be a teacher in a classroom, I'm doing it from concealment, which national trainers pretty much say the time penalty for concealment matches the time penalty for a normal level 2 retention holster. So we'll do it from concealment and see what happens here. I'm going to read off every single stage as we do it and tell you what I'm supposed to do and the par time I'm supposed to meet. The target is the fairly standard FBI Q target, which is a Q bottle there. And any hit on the Q counts for score. There's 50 rounds in this qualification, and to pass, law enforcement officers need a 70%. In other words, they can completely miss 15 times and still pass this particular firearms qualification. So let's see what happens. Stage 1, at the 3-yard line. Draw and fire 1 round on the first target, 2 rounds on the second target, 1 round on the first target. Par time of 5 seconds. I'm setting this up so it gives me a surprise beep somewhere between 2 and 3 seconds after I have hit the button, so I don't know when it's happening. I'll start with my hands at sides, concealment. Time there is 2:37. Part 2 of stage 1. I'm starting with 2 rounds in the gun. Draw and fire 1 round on each target, reload, and fire 1 round on each target in a total of 10 seconds. Okay, so I have a reload also in concealment. 1-1, reload, 1-1. Par time of 10 seconds. Time there was 4.79. Part 3 of stage 1. Draw and fire 1 round on first target, 2 rounds on second target, and 1 round back on the first target. Again, a par time of 5 seconds. Time there was 2.45. Now we shift back to the 5-yard line, and I need to get the rest of my magazines for this. right, stage 2 is at the 5-yard line. String 1, draw and fire 2 rounds on each target in 5 seconds. 2 rounds on each target, 5 seconds. 5 yards. Time 2.57. Part 2. Draw and fire 1 round on each target, reload and fire 1 round on each target in 10 seconds. Time 4.86. Part 3 of stage 2, draw and fire 1 round on first target, 2 rounds on second target, 1 round on first target in 5 seconds. Total time 2.70. All right, that is it for the 5-yard line. Now we need to move back to the 7-yard line. Stage 3, from the 7-yard line. Draw and fire 3 rounds on each target in 8 seconds. And we're going to do this twice. So 2 strings, each of them is 3 rounds on each target in 8 seconds. Guess I need to check my count there since I kicked one out. All right, 3 and 3 in 8 seconds. Total time there was 3:71. Got to do it one more time. Again, 3 and 3 in 8 seconds. Total time there was 3.84 seconds. Now we have to move back to the 10-yard line. From the 10-yard line, 2 4-round magazines. Draw and fire 2 rounds on each target in 6 seconds. And then repeat. So 2 rounds on each target, 6 seconds. We'll do this twice. Total time there was 3.41. Now we have to do the same thing again. 2 rounds on each target, part time of 6 seconds. Time there was 3.15. Now we move back to the 15-yard. The 15-yard line's a little different. At the 15-yard line, there's 2 strings. First strings, draw, kneel, and fire 2 rounds on each target in 8 seconds. The second one is draw, kneel, and fire 1 round on each target in 5 seconds. So first target, draw 2 and 2 from kneeling in 8 seconds. Need to move back to the 15 yard line first. Since I like my knees, cleared a little space and put a mat down there. So draw, kneel, 2 and 2. Time there was 4.80. Last string, draw 1 and 1 in a par time of 5 seconds. Draw 1 and 1, 5 seconds. Time there was 3.21. So, let's go take a look. See what we get. All right, so if we count them, we'll see all of my hits are easily within the cue. This one was my first shot from 15 yards kneeling, because kneeling is not something I had practiced doing at all. So got that, still within the cue. Everything else is easily within the cue, within these areas. So I get 50 out of 50 or a 100%. Again, remember that a passing score for this, you could drop 15 of these completely off the paper and still pass. Since we all know perfectly well that there's always going to be some whiners who say, well, you did it from concealment, it's not the same. Okay, I brought a retention holster. Matter of fact, it's not even a level 2, it's a level 3 retention holster with the ALS, but also the SLS hood. So this is actually more retention than most police officers actually carry. Even better, fine, I'm shooting a gun with iron sights, since there are still some departments that don't allow red dot optics on their guns. Hope you're happy. All right, so this time I'm just going to go and shoot through the whole thing. You already know what the sequences are, and you'll be able to see the time as I do it. So, running it one more time, this time from a level 3 retention holster with iron sights. Let's go see what it looks like from up there. So we look at it, we see, again, we have 100% from a retention holster using iron sights. All the points are there. Again, 50 out of 50. And again, law enforcement's allowed to actually throw 15 of these shots completely off the paper and still pass. So here are the times in which I shot the various strings. Now, in the actual qualification, as long as you're within the par time, it's considered good. They don't actually track your times at all. But I'm always curious about how much time I'm taking compared to how much time they would actually give me for people to score their 70%. And so if we look at this, you'll notice I'm pretty consistently at about 50% of the par time. In other words, I shoot it about twice as fast as their qualification requirement. About the only time I was slower than that was at stage 5 there at 15 yards, where I had to do the kneeling part, which is not something I spend a whole lot of time doing. So it took me 60 or 64% of the time. But in general, I scored my 100% on this qualification, shooting it in half the time allotted. In a similar fashion, here are my times when I shot using that retention holster and iron sights, which, again, I don't actually ever practice with this thing. And yet I still managed to keep my times at about 50%, a little over that, 53% of the given par times. And again, shot a 100% for this sort of thing. So in other words, what this says is for the firearms qualification, the par times are exceedingly generous, and 70% is not exactly the highest bar in the world. So this is actually the official target for the law enforcement qualification. It's the standard cue bottle, similar or actually matching exactly what I used in mine. It's just that this one doesn't have any other colorful background and so on. Plus there is that chest box there with additional scoring areas and so on. So one of the interesting things about this is that obviously this is what we use normally for the regular qualification. But if you want to be an instructor, what you have to do as a pre-qualification is shoot the regular qualification course with a 90% requirement. And then during your law enforcement instructor class, you have to shoot it with, again, a 90% hit requirement, but you're doing it on a modified target where that chest box, which is now highlighted in yellow, is the part where you have to get 90% of your shots within. Now, you're still using the regular target, but it does have that chest box at least outlined. So you have to get a 90% to manage that. Now, in my case, here are what the targets look like when I was shooting from concealment. Okay, we take this, have these targets here, and what we can do is then superimpose on them that standard cue target. And you'll notice when we do that, and right after that, when we highlight the yellow area, we see that I have exactly one shot outside, and I actually scored a 98% within that minimized cue box. Which means that I actually shot sufficiently well to pass the instructor qualification for this sort of thing. And even better, I did it on targets that don't have that nice outline of the chest area where you're actually trying to hit. Instead, I had just, bare blank white sort of things. Nonetheless, I managed to pull everything into the center and again get a 98%. In a similar fashion, if we look at the second set that I did using the retention holster and so on, again, we pull up the original targets, superimpose the cue target on it, and then highlight the yellow chest area, or highlight the chest area with yellow, and we see in that case I managed a 100%. So in both cases of shooting the law enforcement qualification, I not only passed the qualification, I passed it at the instructor level. So that's something to think about.